It's very different from running a business and being a shareholder in a business to now being an employee.
Hi everyone, I'm Adam Turton and welcome to Elite Chat. I'm here to give you some insight into the ideas, knowledge and experience of real people who have operated and executed successfully in the world of business. Our hope is that by sharing this knowledge and giving you this insight, it will bring you value for your own careers and your own journey in business. So let's get cracking. Today, I'm pleased to say that I'm joined by Matt Kingsley-Williams, Operations Director at Elite Group. Matt has had an incredible career as a shareholder and Managing Director of MWL Systems, an IT services business that Matt successfully sold and exited to Elite Group in 2019. Matt, hello and welcome to Elite Chat. How are you?
Hi Adam, good to be here. I'm very well, thank you.
Top man. So diving straight in, obviously, we will get to talking in some detail about the sale of your business shortly, but something I was interested to ask you about, and something that I'm sure many business owners may be wrestling with out there is, before they sell a business that is how have you found the transition from running a business for many years to now actively working in the acquiring business in the role you are in as operations director? What's that transition been like?
It's a good question and one that I'm sure a lot of business owners consider when they are at the point of sale, how, if they remain in the business, how they're actually going to get on in the wider, larger potentially business. It's been interesting for me, for sure. I was fortunate in a way that I was with MWL for a long time, and I experienced many different roles within the business and grew my role over time. So I have a lot of skills to bear in terms of areas of the business, from sales, marketing, operations, and as well as some technical skills potentially. So it has enabled me to work with different teams in a larger business, for sure.
I was going to ask you the hard question first, which is, I suppose, what surprised you the most and what have you found the most difficult about the transition? We'll come on to the good stuff shortly about what's been great about the transition. Of course, I'm sure there's plenty of things on that list, but what have you found most challenging about the transition?
Being brutally honest, it's interested me that when you enter a transaction for a sale of the business, obviously you present a view of your business that you want the other side to buy into, as it were, that both from a vendor and from an acquirer. I'm surprised that, I'm not surprised, but you don't have all the answers, or Elite don't have all the answers. When you assume a larger business to yours will come in and have all the processes sorted, all the answers to all the difficult questions that we all experience in business. But it's really good to me to see that we got a lot of it right. We understood what we were doing, and we can actually provide a lot of benefit to the wider business. I think that's key to a successful transition. And successful integration is, we have got value and experience in our business that can be used in the wider piece. That makes for a great success, I think. And
in terms of, I guess, elements of the transition that you've welcomed and that you've enjoyed?
For sure, yeah. There's been several things. Obviously, as a smaller business, we were only circa 40, 50 staff at the time, so we didn't have particularly professional HR process, particularly professional recruitment or legal department, those things which as a small business you kind of just do when you need to, or you use outside experts to help you on your journey. Whereas in Elite, we've got people that's their day job. If you've got a problem with legislation or a problem with contracts, you know who to go to, and they've got the expertise and experience to help you on that problem. So that has been one of the main benefits.
And then thinking about people who may be watching or listening to this, and maybe business owners who are thinking about an exit strategy. And obviously, Elite Group, they've completed many acquisitions. I think it's 17 or 18 to date, and there's been lots of different deal structures. There's been some earn-outs where the owner of the business remains for a period of time. There's been a number of deals that have been completed where owners or key shareholders within the business have remained employed with Elite for many years. What would your advice be to somebody potentially looking to sell their business, and as part of their exit strategy, they would be looking to transition and go with the company and be employed with the acquiring company? What would your advice be to them before they go on that journey?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that's always attractive for the acquiring business, to have that continuity within the business. So I think, I mean, it's key and important for me anyway to have had that strong management team in place, which I was part of, as well as some of the customer relations and experience of the processes we run as a business. So if you can maintain some of your sort of key day-to-day involvement in the business, if you are looking to transition and work within the acquiring business. Obviously, the flip side is if you don't want to do anything after the acquisition, if you want to retire, if you want to move on, then you've got to have an even stronger management team that is basically doing the day-to-day for you, and you can just walk away. But it was important to me. I mean, I'm only relatively young. You know, I enjoy what I'm doing. I want to carry on doing what I'm doing, and so I was a key part to the business that was acquired and continue to be, I hope.
Absolutely. And a question, obviously, I've known you for over a year now. We've been working together here and there. And a question I've been dying to ask you, because you'll probably know with myself, I've worked with an elite group for nearly 18 years now, and I work with a family member who's also been in the business for quite some time. I'm quite surprised to come across so many people in business who are either working with family members or part of family-run, family-started businesses. And I know that's certainly your story. MWL Systems, family-run business for many years, of which obviously you were a key part of that. So I'm really just interested to hear from you. What's that experience been like, being as part of a family-run business, both good and bad and indifferent, really? Because I've got my own experiences, which I'm happy to share to an extent, but I really dying to hear what your experience has been like.
What's the expression? You can choose your friends, but you can't choose your family. Something like that. Yeah. Family businesses, as we know, they are sort of the bedrock of the British economy in many ways. There's an awful lot of family businesses out there, and that's something that I think surprised me when I entered business and started engaging with customers. Is how many of them were family businesses, and they often see that as a benefit when they're dealing with you as a supplier or a partner company. They like to see the family traditions. So my father started the business, so I joined it when I was relatively young, and hence grown up through the business to where I am now. And it has its positives for sure. You know your family's got your back. Ultimately, everybody's going in the same direction. There's that level of trust which is difficult to replicate with somebody that's not family. But equally, you know, people in family have their own ambitions, their own desires, their own view of the world, and they're not always compatible with yours. So you know, it can become challenging. I think we were always very successful at maintaining a level of professionalism, even though it's a family business. You do hear interesting stories of family businesses where it's very obvious to the staff that there's favoritism involved, or they treat the place like a lifestyle business. But we were always very keen to have it on a professional footing in the office anyway. And that's important to me anyway.
And that's really good insight. I think from my experience of it, I think I've had experience both the highs and the lows. I would definitely echo your sentiment around there's that element of trust and relationship that you don't get as hard as you try with other peers who we work closely with. Your family is your family at the end of the day. And I think when it's going well, it's better than it would be normally just with any other colleague or any other peer. But then when it's going not so well, it can be even worse. And then finding that clear demarcation between we're on family time now versus we're on work time, I think is probably the thing I've struggled with maybe the most. How have you found that, identifying and drawing that line?
Absolutely. You know, you find yourself talking shop 24/7. That's the difficulty. You know, you almost have to have like a code word, a safe word, if you will. You know, you stop talking about work. You know, let's talk about something else. Yeah. But it is that, you know, you bring it home with you 24/7, and that, again, there's benefits to it because, you know, you're on the ball and you care, and you know, it's always about, you know, the business and doing the right thing. But then you've got to put some time aside for yourself, just trying to find those releases almost, be it, you know, exercise, be it, you know, taking the dogs for a walk or whatever you need to do, just to try and get a bit of time to process your own thoughts.
Yeah,
that's important for sure.
Yeah, I can completely relate to that, Matt. I wanted to dive into obviously the process and experience you've had of selling a business, because then that's really valuable to people who may be watching and listening. So in your case, what was it that was driving that decision to sell MWL Systems back in 2019?
Primarily, it was the original founders and majority shareholders looking to retire. They'd obviously put in a good shift, got to a certain age, and needed to enjoy their retirement, as it were. And there wasn't the will within remaining family members, not including me or management team, to do a management buyout. So it was decided to go out to market and see if we can find a compatible business that we could secure what we've built here and grow it with like-minded people. That was generally the motivation behind it.
And was that something that, in your role at the time as MD, that you wanted to have happen, and given it ended up happening, what were your biggest anxieties about the process and about selling?
It's very different from running a business and being a shareholder in a business to now being an employee. So there's a big leap of faith there, I'd say. So I can't say I was particularly keen on it initially.
Yeah.
I wanted to be master of my own destiny, not just for me, but for the people that worked for me. So there was an element of reluctance to enter the market, as it were, because in essence, I had a good thing going. I was able to control what we were doing as a business. Yeah. We were agile enough to react to market demand. It was a good environment and culture, and still is, to work in. But obviously, other shareholders on the board have other hopes, dreams, aspirations, and so you've always got to take a pragmatic approach and do what's right for the wider business and myself ultimately.
How did you determine the right buyer for the business? What was that criteria, and what was that process like?
It wasn't a quick process, because there wasn't a fire sale, as it were. Yeah. We were keen to take our time to find not just the right price. It wasn't a case of to the highest bidder. It was more a case of who's gonna come in and see the value in what we've built and look after our people and provide the right sort of future for myself as well, because I was obviously key decision maker in the process. So we engaged with third-party corporate financiers. There's loads of them out there, so you probably know and used them in the past, and they in effect went out to market and brought us a beauty parade of people with which to talk to under NDA. So we met people down in London, Birmingham, all over the place, really, just to get a feel for who they were, and obviously they were getting a feel for who we were, and then we whittled it down to a final few.
And in that early part of the process, the beauty parade, where different businesses came along and took a deeper look at your organisation. What was your experience of that like? I mean, how did you feel having, I guess, your own pride and joy under the microscope and 20 questions a minute?
Yeah, it was I quite enjoyed it, actually. It was quite interesting because we didn't have any skeletons in the closet. It was very much an open book. We were proud of what we had. We had all the information to hand, which is key. I think we might come to this when you're looking at selling a business. The due diligence process is very painful, or can be very painful. So if you've got the ability to put your finger on the data, find the information that people are asking for, it always helps. But I always enjoyed talking about what we do, what the sort of customers we have, the solutions we provide people, and it's always interesting meeting new and different people, because this was an experience world I'd never been through before. The sale of a business, and it's not necessarily one you want to repeat very often, because it can be quite a drawn-out process. But meeting the different people and finding out about their businesses as well, because it's a two-way street. You've got to understand the people that that are buying off you, as well as explain to them what they're buying. So no, it was a good process, I'd say.
And over the years, I've heard many business owners talk about the challenges involved in dealing with corporate finance houses and lawyers once you get into these processes. And so I have to ask, what was that like? So talk to me about how you selected the corporate finance business that you ended up working with, and then also the experience of dealing with lawyers through an M&A process.
The fun bit, the legal stuff, yeah, that was great. I mean, as any business owner or manager will know, we get letters every day from people wanting to see if we want to sell our business. I think it's a common theme. So anybody listening to this that runs a business will have had letters from corporate finances saying, is it time to exit? So we're obviously aware of some that we wanted to talk to, and we did several meetings just to see anyone that had a good track record in our industry, people that had experience of selling managed service providers recently. And a lot of it's down to gut and personality and feel. People buy off people. We know that in business, so you get a good idea of whether they are the right people for your business. So yeah, we selected KBS Corporate, and they ran the process for us. I mean, a lot of business owners, I guess, you do wonder how they actually make the money, what value are they actually adding, because ultimately, they do get a fair chunk of the sale, and for the perception is they do very little, but I'm sure they do. The interesting bit, the difficult bit, was the legal due diligence and the amount of time and effort required from us as a relatively small business to get all the right documents and all the right information through legal. Fortunately, our financial director at the time took the brunt of that. I was very much hands-on day-to-day within the business, and the FD, as he should do, does a lot of the number crunching and the paperwork as required. So it was, I'm not saying it was painless for me, it wasn't, but I'm sure it was a lot more painful for the FD at the time.
Well, I was going to ask, because I think that's the infamous question, isn't it? I mean, the two things I hear the most about are the egos of lawyers on both sides. It tends to be a challenge during these processes. And then the other one was how much of a mountain it feels like you're climbing when it comes to completing the DD process. And obviously you've referred to it there. But I think my question for you specifically around DD was, how were you able to balance making sure that DD was happening and progressing, so that the whole sale process was happening, but that didn't detract from the BAU activity and running your business? How did you manage to balance the two?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think we had a really good demarcation of responsibilities almost within our business. And again, that's probably some advice for people looking to exit a business, is make sure you've got keep your eye on the ball, in effect, on the day-to-day running the business, and make sure somebody's responsibility is to do the brunt of the DD work. Obviously, I was involved quite heavily in it at times, but a lot of it is just very much quite onerous, generating paperwork and figures and all that sort of jazz, and that very much lends itself to an FD type role.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a key point, really. You don't want to spend all your time and effort doing DD, and then whilst Rome's burning, whilst the business is losing its focus. That's the business you're looking to sell. It's not
Exactly. I think it's a good point, isn't it, for anybody entering a potential sale process, because when you enter DD, it's not always a foregone conclusion that it will result in a sale and the process concluding. So you still need to have a business at the end of it. If you don't complete on the transaction that you run and continue to grow and drive enterprise value on. So I think maybe some people might miss that point.
Absolutely, and as you know, a lot of sales involve some sort of earn-out fee. So you've got to make sure that the business is in a fit state once it gets bought and integrated. That if you are staying on, or the shareholders are expecting in 12 months, 24 months, some sort of earn-out, then it's got to be a functioning business at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think moving on to this next question that I wanted to ask, and I feel quite fortunate, really, because to date in my career, I've always been on the acquiring side. So we've never been looking to sell Elite Group. As you know, we're very much in acquisition mode and in growth mode ourselves. And I don't look forward to the day that comes, if it does come at any point in the next 5 or 10 years. But I think the question I did want to ask is that decision to tell staff that you're either entering a process or selling up. At what point did you make the decision, right, we need to inform staff of what's happening here?
Yeah, that's a really difficult one, because I've been in the business, the MWL business, that got sold for the best part of my adult life, and a lot of the people I work with I consider friends, colleagues. Talk to them about all sorts of things. So to hide this process from them, which had been going on for 12, 18 months, it was very difficult personally. But still, in order to, because you don't know if the next person you're going to meet is actually going to be the one, so you can't tell people. You've got to maintain a business, and you've got to make sure that it is moving forward. So I did tell key staff about 2 weeks or 1 week before the actual sale date, when we were pretty much 99% of the way there. It could all have fallen through, who knows, once Lloyd's get involved, but fortunately it didn't. So the key management team that had built here, they were the ones that I actually chose to explain the reasons behind how it's good for them, good for their future. And then actually on the day of the sale, we told the remainder of the staff, and I think that was a good approach, because I obviously needed the management team to be on board and understand what was going on, and not be looking like rabbits in the headlight, if that makes sense. So
yeah, no, absolutely.
It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. You know, different people have different views on it, and some will be, you know, open about looking to exit the business at a certain point, and the staff will be aware and supportive, and some won't tell anyone until the deal is done and they walk off into the sunset. I just thought for our particular situation, I think we handled it quite well.
And I've got to ask, how was it? What happened for you to come to the point that you thought, right, yes, Elite Group is the right company to acquire MWL?
I mean, there was lots of reasons. One of the things we liked, you know, as a board about Elite Group was the perceived similarity in cultures and personalities, and what you wanted to do, what we now want to do as a business, and how it would definitely mean that the acquisition of MWL was important to that. It's a strategic acquisition. It wasn't just bolting on more revenue, stripping out cost. It was a key driver to the future success of the wider business. So we saw that as a massive positive, and not just for us as a business, but for our staff as well. It was one of the important factors to make sure that we weren't just taking the money and running. You know, we wanted to secure the long-term futures of the people that were in the business, and we thought with Elite Group we had the opportunity to do that. Unfortunately, I had the opportunity to have a role going forward within the business, which I'm enjoying very much.
Superb. And can you describe that feeling, what it's like once you sign the deal and you complete? Because I'm intrigued to know, because I've heard lots of different people say it's a huge anticlimax, but I'm just wondering what your view is, because I guess on one hand you've got, right, look, you know, it's been a long process and I'm glad that's over, maybe because it's a lot of work. That will obviously attract an element of stress and pressure, because like you've just alluded to there, at what point have I been able to tell staff and people who've worked with me for so long? On the other hand, then you've also got, well, I should have attracted a decent amount of capital and realized some kind of gain from this transaction, and that's got to be a great feeling. But at the same time, I'm now handing over the keys and control to something I've spent a huge chunk of my life and poured my heart and soul into. So really interested to know, Matt, what was going through your mind when the deal was finally done?
Again, good question. And to be honest, I've probably not given it enough thought, because it all happened very quickly. Yeah. And there's a lot of plates in the air, a lot going on. I mean, anticlimax, I guess so, because it's been building up for a while. It's just like, yeah, fine, that's done now. Next, you know, there wasn't the champagne popping that you visualize from some transactions. It was very much, you know, in work the next day, yeah, dealing with the fallout, in effect. Yeah. I wasn't walking off into the sunset. I was there trying to reassure staff that it was all good, while still myself having my confusion about, have I done the right thing here? So it's I'm still not sure. No.
I think though, Matt, like that's like really like revealing, isn't it? And I think it's good to share that for people who may be watching or listening, who are potential business owners and thinking, yeah, there is this kind of hurrah moment, like you say, where the champagne bottles pop and yeah, that's it. You just go and hit the beach. You know, very often, like you just pointed to, there's a bit more work left to do actually with people the next day and reassuring staff, because if any business is going to be handing over, you know, several £1 million to acquire an asset, that comes, you know, with responsibilities, but it normally comes with staff who have key relationships with customers and ensure that those customers aren't going to clear off and they're going to hang around. So I think it's good insight for people watching this to know, yeah, it's not all champagne and nightclubs. There's a realization that there's work to do.
Yeah, for sure. I think you summed it up nicely there, to be fair.
If my day ever comes, I am hoping for the champagne and the nightclubs, though, Matt, to enjoy it.
If I ever do it again, then that'll be the case, yeah. I think.
Well, I was going to ask you as well, is on reflection now, so, you know, sold the business back in 2019. How well prepared do you feel the business was for a sale?
I think it was well prepared. Obviously, we had a good run-in to the actual sale date. So we've done things around securing recurring revenue, trying to build up the value of the business as best we could. We still had quite a mixture of sales in terms of the one-off type sales as well as the recurring revenue, but that's kind of the nature of the business we were in. We'd put a strong management team in place that been there a while, understood the business, understood the customers, understood what we were doing, what the vision was. So we've done a lot of work, I think, to prepare the business for it. So when it happened, I'd like to think it was a relatively painless process from the acquirer's point of view. It's almost like my perception is Elite bought the business and then didn't have to do anything immediately, just left it running for a period until we can then slowly start integrating systems and processes and doing proper integration and then driving the value of the wider piece there.
Good stuff. And obviously you've referenced further strength in the management team that you developed obviously prior to sales, so it put you in good shape, ready to go to market. And I did want to cover with you management and leadership as a topic, because obviously someone with your career, someone who's ran businesses and grown businesses over years and then actually taken a business to market and successfully sold it. Really want you to get your views on and your approach really to building high performance teams.
Good question. And I'd like to say I've got some clear and concise answers, but a lot of it has happened organically in our business. We've been very much a technically led organisation, very much solution focused, and those people that are able to work on those solutions, handle customers, those are the kind of guys that garner respect from other people in the business from a leadership point of view. So I'm not saying that we were a leadership team of techies, but there was very much a techie bias on the leadership team, people that had worked the hard yards in effect, done the installations, worked with the customers, put projects into place, and then obviously they've got the respect of their peers. We weren't historically particularly heavy sales engine as a business. A lot of our business was referral business, repeat business, grew organically. And from a leadership point of view, I just wanted to keep that going. We'd never done an acquisition as a business. So we'd grown to where we were from just doing good work, putting in good solutions, customers recommending us, customers coming back to us all the time. And my leadership approach was to almost reward and promote the people that made that happen. And they're key drivers in the success of the business. So it's very much a collaborative approach as well. It's not the command and control, you will do this. It's very much, right, guys, what we're going to do here, team ethos. Obviously, somebody at top's got to call the ultimate shot, but by engaging people at all levels, you get that buy-in across the teams, I think.
Yeah, makes sense. And obviously the last 12 months has thrown all kinds of challenges at businesses and homes globally around the world in the wake of COVID-19. Just curious to hear from you, your experience of managing in a remote working setting. Obviously, we deployed remote working at Elite Group over a year ago now at scale. And obviously we're in a great place given what we do for a living, and everything that technology enables that we support for customers. But what's your experience been like of managing remotely for such a long period of time?
Yeah, it's been interesting. The way we deployed remote working as a business, I was very impressed with personally. There's an awful lot of expertise. I know we do it for a living, so we should do it well. But the way it was rolled out and the way we were able to send people home with a laptop and just carry on working, it was fantastic. And we've obviously enabled that for a lot of customers as well. So that's been fantastic. In terms of leading teams and managing remotely, it is a challenge. It's a very different way of working. It's a very different way that I'm used to doing it. I've been caught by the water cooler many times. We're in the kitchen making a cup of tea, and you get some of your best conversations with staff, and you get good insight into what's going on in their world. You can disseminate information quite well just by sitting around the kitchen table with people having their lunch. So to go from that sort of environment where you're in the office all day with people and your door's open for people to come in and talk to you with any queries or questions, to very much remote, Teams-based, phone-based, it is difficult. And I don't think we're the only business to suffer that. So we've very much got our managers doing their daily check-ins with staff, because I think that's important, just to make sure people are, we as a business, as we try and push out as much information as possible. People will always say we don't do enough, and some people say we do too much.
Yeah.
But that's just the nature of the beast, and it is a fine balance to play. But I think key regular contact with your key personnel and key managers, even personnel that aren't your direct reports, but are important to the wider business. It's important to keep in touch with them, find out what's going on in their world, and just if you need a little morale boost every now and then for somebody, I think that's good. The danger is that you get isolated in your ivory tower and you don't know what's going on the shop floor, as it were, and that is concern.
Yeah, I completely relate. I think from talking about this question with a number of different people, I think certainly what I felt remote working did for me and my respective teams in the businesses, I think productivity definitely went up. Obviously, the technology we deployed, and we were already playing with Microsoft Teams, but we deployed that at scale across the business for collaboration in the organization, and it was a game changer for us. And obviously, as you've alluded to, we do that for a living to support our customers. But as a result of deploying that technology, shaving off commuting time for people, I think what I observed early on was definitely an increase in productivity, and the technology enabled that along with home working. But then what I suffered with, which I think you're alluding to as well, is didn't feel like I had a feel for the pulse of the business, which you get from those moments in the kitchen, having a coffee with somebody or just walking the floor and demonstrating an element of visible felt leadership. You get a feel for the company and the mood in the camp. And that does tend to go away when you're in a remote working setting. But again, I think generally speaking, as a management team at Elite Group, we've done a good job and worked hard at over communicating. And like you say, you can please some of the people all the time or all the people some of the time. It's either too much or too little. But I think I sleep well at night, and I don't know how you feel. I sleep well at night knowing that we're doing all we can to communicate as much as possible with staff, and that's all in the absence of being in an office together where you can see the whites of everybody's eyes all the time. I think that's all you can do. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely, and we can't forget that people's offices are now their homes. People have been homeschooling for months, and you've got the teams calling noise going off all the time. I know my son, he comes into my office and he's like, "Are you on the phone? Are you on a call?" And I probably am at the time. Yeah. But people are working from their homes, but we're there expecting them to do what they're doing in the office almost. And it is. You don't want to overstay your welcome in people's homes, if you know what I mean. Yes, they should be doing 9 to 5. The commute to the office is often a nice break, a nice sort of psychological, in the morning, set yourself up for the day, at the end of the day, decompress, and then you've got your home time. But we mustn't forget that people's, they shut the computer down and then they're in the kitchen and they don't have that opportunity to decompress.
Completely. I totally relate. I mean, I think I've took that for granted. I mean, I had approximately maybe a 25-30 minute commute to and from work, and it was that got shortened very quickly to a 2-second commute from the office at home into the kitchen, and then you're straight into family mode. And it's crazy how I took for granted that 25 minutes in the car listening to a podcast or a bit of music or thinking about nothing, just to depressurize the day and then compartmentalize and demark that work time versus, right, I'm going home now. And I think I've become more aware of the need for that work-life balance in the last year, as I think the whole country has become increasingly aware of that, with the rise of all the increased spotlight, and rightly so, on mental health, that COVID-19 and the stresses that have come with home working, homeschooling, and let's not forget as well, that how terrible the virus has been in terms of loss of life and, making people pretty unwell. So, yeah, I think we've all took that for granted.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's definitely something that you don't realise until you do it. I mean, I've been coming into the office relatively regularly, and I enjoy it when I come in, because you do get that break. And now it's obviously quite quiet in the office, as it is in your office, I know. But I think people will forget about how good it is. They get used to working at home, and it's like they won't want to come back into the office. I think there will be a degree, not just in our business, but in the wider country. I think there'll be some challenges to come when lockdown is over and businesses expect people to come back to normal. We always need to re-emphasize the benefits of the work environment. And I
think we have an added benefit at the Lancashire office for Elite Group, in that we're right next door to a pub. So as long as the pubs are opening, Matt, I think we'll be okay in getting the staff back into the offices. But no, I think you make a really good point there. We touched on the technology that we provide to customers. We touched on what technology's enabled for us to support our remote working over the last year in the wake of COVID-19. But given we are a tech business, I just wanted to speak to you about technology and the tech that you've either been part of deploying or been deploying within Elite Group in your role as operations director, and what you've seen that bring to the organisation.
I mean, you mentioned Teams before. That's clearly something we live and breathe at the moment, as do a lot of our customers, and that has been a massive eye-opener for us in terms of collaboration, getting people working on the same documents in real time. I was party to a call yesterday where you've got potentially a dozen engineers all updating the same spreadsheet at the same time on a call. That true collaborative working, spread throughout the country. These guys working to a common goal. It was always quite an emotional thing watching all these guys working to fix this problem together, and that's something that we couldn't have done previously. And so that's obviously the key one. Teams, video conferencing, again, it's something, we're obviously on our laptop cameras here, but I know we've got some much better setups in our meeting rooms to do proper inter-branch communications. And once we're back in the swing of things, back in the office, that's going to be key. I think it's making the wider business feel more joined up. That your colleague is just a room away. In effect, you can just walk into the conference room, bang on the camera, and it's like they're in the same room. So there's some fantastic enabling technologies out there which we've deployed, and that I know a lot of our customers have. A lot of them surrounding the Microsoft stack, Office 365, SharePoint. Those are some of the key ones, have been for us historically, and I know we're talking to the wider Elite base as well about what those solutions can do for them and how we can help integrate them into their existing systems.
Absolutely. You'll be relieved to hear here now, Matt, that we're nearing the end of our time on Elite Chat, but we do this towards the end of every episode. We look at the big three takeaway. So I think a lot of our discussion today has been around M&A and the process of going to market and selling a business. And I think that could certainly bring value to an audience that may be watching or listening. So what I was going to ask you to do, if you don't mind, is just thinking about potential business owners out there that may be considering going to market and looking at an exit strategy. You have to pick just three things that they should be thinking about and exploring prior to going to market and selling their business. What would those big three things be as a takeaway?
Obviously, it depends on sector and business, but speaking from my experience, I think what really helped us was doing your homework on the people you're dealing with, any prospective buyers, making sure it's what you actually want to do as an individual. Are they the right fit? It's making sure you've got a strong management team in place, and it's making sure that your management information, your figures, be it your financial figures, be it your support metrics, be it any other sort of information that you need to say, this is my business is good because of this, or this is how well we're performing. Have that to hand. You don't want to be making up stuff in the background just to please the people that are buying the business. You've got to have that information to hand. I think that's key. So having people in the business that can do it. If you can't do it yourself, having a good trusted person in charge of finance or management information, I think is key. And putting myself on the other side of the table, if I'm buying a business, you want to be dealing with professional people that can supply you with that information in a transparent manner. You don't want to be digging and asking too many questions, because then it starts alarm bells going off, I think.
Great. Thank you very much, Matt, and thanks for your time today. Really appreciate you joining me and talking through and answering all of my questions. Thank you also to everybody who's watching. If you do have any questions on any of the topics we've covered here today, please do send us a message or drop that in the comments section. And also please do look out for Elite Group on all the social media platforms, and please do like, share, comment and follow us on those platforms. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, thank you for watching.